All right, so Katie, whenever you're ready to go live, we're live. All right. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tullahoma. Today is Sunday, August 29th, 2021. So welcome to those of you on Zoom. Welcome to those of you who are visiting us via live stream, and welcome to those of you viewing this as a recording. So Cass will do our opening reading.
Okay. And our opening reading today comes from the Unitarian Universalist website. The title is All Water is One Water. Water unites us. All water is one water. It is shape-shifting as it goes on its unending cycle. The stream we gather by unites us all with the waters of the world, for all of life depends on water. That's why this common everyday element on which our very lives depend is sacred. In our thankfulness for water, let us remember that to honor, cherish, and care for it for our own lives, for all life touched by water, and for those who come after.
So now we'll go to our chalice lighting.
Again, from the Unitarian website. As we approach our presentation today, let us remember that we are doing the work of the congregation. When we do the work of the congregation, we touch lives. When we touch lives, we change the world. May this chalice flame that we now kindle remind us throughout our meeting of our ministry and our mission.
We now go to announcements, and I'll start with a couple of announcements. First of all, if you wish to donate to the church to help us with our work, you can send a check to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tullahoma at P.O. Box 331 in Tullahoma 37388. Also, I believe Carrie is still looking for somebody to assist with being the service leader one Sunday a month. So if you're interested in that, let Carrie know. She's looking for somebody to take the second Sunday of the month. And it isn't all that much work. It's, in a way, it's kind of a lot of fun. So I encourage you to do that if you're interested. As far as our picnic, we had a picnic scheduled for a week ago. It was canceled or rescheduled because of rain. So the rescheduled date is Saturday, the 11th of September. So same place over in Fraser McEwen Park. So let's hope we can get together on that day.
Same time.
Same time, same place, 4 p.m. And also just a note on COVID, that's been mentioned a little bit, but Chuck has been monitoring the COVID levels here in our 7-county area. And let's see, from the beginning of August, well, I'll go back to, I've got the whole sheet here. So kind of around the middle of July, we were at around 5 cases per 100,000 population. We are now at 100 per 100 cases, 7-day average per 100,000. So it's going up, it's continuing to go up. So we're not out of the woods by any means. This is still going on. And yeah, as far as vaccination rates, we're really not very good. The state is right around a little over 42% fully vaccinated. I don't have the exact number, but our 7-county region is 30, 31, maybe 32 max. And as somebody just mentioned, Grundy County on the website I looked at, they just broke 20% vaccination, but Moore County, Lynchburg, still at 17%. So this neck of the woods, folks just aren't getting vaccinated. So be careful out there. So that is it for me. Other announcements. Raise your hand if you have an announcement. And yeah, Chuck, go ahead.
First, just a thank you to the couple of people who beta tested the picnic by showing up. It was canceled. Apparently the site works and so forth. So, but I just wanted to say the Thursday night discussion group will, of course, meet on Thursday night via Zoom at 7 o'clock. If you need a link, a Zoom link, let me or Tom or Rick or Peter or Tony or Patty know, and we'll get you a link.
The picnic was great. That was Peter, myself, Bill, and Lucy. And somebody who was just lived there, I think. So.
All right, other announcements. If you have one, raise your hand, and most of you are muted. If you're going to say something, you have to unmute. Any other announcements? It looks like not so. All right, we will then move on to our responsive reading, and this is titled Daring for Peace by Maureen Killeran. As we are confronted by chaos,
may we have the wisdom to believe in peace.
Surrounded by voices of disagreement,
may we have the audacity to speak for peace.
And lured by seduction,
may we have the courage to maintain a vision of possibility and peace.
We now move on to our speaker, and Doug Traversa will be talking, I believe the title is Why We Believe What We Believe. And if that's not the case, Doug, set us straight right now. It's all yours.
Yeah. You got it. That's the correct title. I'm getting feedback. Jancy, can you shut a door or something? She's listening in on a different site, but I'm hearing myself twice. So last March, I spoke on why we do what we do. And this is a follow-on sermon to that. I looked at various beliefs that drove our actions. And today I'm going to examine the things that drive those beliefs. At least I hope I examine them. And as always, take from it what helps you and ignore what you disagree with. I'm actually been going to Sunday school at 9 o'clock at First Christian Church, where I was the intern minister. And we have a very interesting Sunday school group there where about half of us are unbelievers or non-believers or not Christians, however you want to call it. And the rest are very progressive Christians. So we have some interesting discussions. And today I made a couple of rather provocative statements like, if you actually want to know something about God, you've got to start by throwing out everything everyone's told you about God. And when you pray, you shouldn't be asking for things. You should just try to connect to God. And of course, I don't believe in God per se, but I'm saying if there is a God, that's how you'd go about it. And so people were aghast, throw the Bible out. I said, well, there's a foundational truth. Yes, because even amongst them, with me saying nothing, they were arguing about whether the Old Testament had any value whatsoever. So it was a very interesting hour. But at the end of it, I said a couple times, everything I say could be wrong. I could be utterly, totally wrong. And you don't have to believe anything I say or act on anything I say. And that's often how I conclude my sermons. And so when I got up to leave, I said, well, we got to go early today because this atheist has to go give a sermon, which they all got a big kick out. And then one of them corrected me and said, well, no, you have to go and give a talk. So it's been fun. And I say that because everything I say today could be wrong. I'm going to be speaking from my experience. It may not resonate at all with you, but at best, what I hope for is that it helps everyone to examine why they believe and how these beliefs drive what they do. And so I hope in some small way it helps all of us to take closer looks at the things that drive how we act. I begin with this story from my early days in the Air Force. We were stationed at Mountain Home Air Force Base, Idaho, which, despite its name, is actually a high desert plateau and not a very pretty place to be. We lived on base and base housing, and we were 10 miles from the nearest town, the small town of Mountain Home, so named because it used to be in the mountains. Thus, it was Mountain Home, but they moved into the desert. It was pretty isolated. This one base in the middle of nowhere, 10 miles from a very tiny town. And we did have one unique natural feature. We were just a few miles from Bruneau Sand Dune, the tallest single structured sand dune in North America, which has nothing to do with this talk. But now you know where the tallest single standing sand dune is, should that come up in one of your trivia contests. Now, one day it snowed and our kids had friends across the street and we were going to go sledding. And we said, go across and see if the girls want to go with us. And they came back and said something like, yeah, their mother said, no, they can't go sledding. And later on, the kids weren't playing with our kids anymore. And I noticed something was wrong. So I went and asked the mom, what was going on? And she said, your kids told my kids that they were going to go to hell unless they believed X, Y, and Z. Now, the sad thing is, our children were very accurately reflecting what we believed at the time. We did indeed believe that large groups of people would end up in hell, including many so-called Christians who didn't hold the right beliefs. I am not proud of this fact, quite the opposite. I'm quite embarrassed by it, but that is why what I believed at the time. But why did I hold to such a belief? Why was I cool with worshiping a God that was going to send people to hell? To many people not immersed in this sort of belief, it seems, justifiably so, quite barbaric. With years of hindsight, I certainly agree. But at the time, I held those beliefs without reservation. Why? Sadly, I can only conclude that the ultimate reason was incredible selfishness. I wanted to know that I would go to heaven when I died, that I wasn't going to go to hell. And the only group that spoke with any authority about this, at least that I had encountered, were Christian fundamentalists. Now, their authority was, of course, false authority, but at the time it convinced me. The fact that others, many others, would face eternal damnation was really not a problem because I now had a way out. And if they chose not to believe, that's on them. So I could shrug that off, and I did. See, they could be saved just as I was if they made the right choices, believed the right things, just as I had. And even the fact that God wanted to, or as we like to say, God had to, because of his righteousness, send people to hell, judge them. This was not a reflection on his love and mercy, or so we tried to convince ourselves. God just had to operate on the principles of his righteousness, and part of that was hell. So I bought in. And let me emphasize again, I bought in because I cared about me. My eternal destiny was all that mattered. And when I found a group that spoke with authority, even if it was false authority, I was excited and I committed completely. The inhumaneness of this theology did not matter at the time. What mattered was that it had definitive answers and it assured me that I would go to heaven. At this point in my life, I was not driven by a sense of purpose or a sense of justice. In fact, I was very judgmental. Those who believed incorrectly were not only lost, they deserved to be lost. And they deserved the punishment they were going to get because they rejected Jesus. I deserved those bad things also, but I was saved by grace. It was, at least for me, the most self-centered belief system I've ever been a part of. And this is ironic because we said everything was done for the glory of God. and everything centered on God. Yet clearly it was about two things, at least for me it was. One, God loved me and had a plan for my life. Everything that happened worked towards the fulfillment of that plan. And two, I had eternal security and could know that I would go to heaven when I died. So that's why I believed. And then later, I stopped believing. I realized the facts, in quotes, that I thought were true weren't. And I had to start all over again. For a long time, rediscovering life without God was enough. I did not expect to get back into the meaning-seeking mode. I was fed up with people who claimed to know the truth. I had little use for anything spiritual. But ultimately, I did discover Unitarian Universalism and found a place where searching was encouraged, and coming to your own conclusions was the norm. And as many of you know, I began a new phase of my life, studying Unitarian Universalist history and theology, going to seminary, becoming a minister, then studying and practicing Zen. Why did I do all this after I rejected organized religion? Why did these steps seem right? How did they form my new beliefs? First, and there are 3 points here. First, it became very clear to me that the first error many people make is allowing others to tell them what to believe. Now, this came up in the Sunday school class today. Like I said, throw out everything everyone has told you about God, because they don't know God any better than you do. Even if there is a God, they don't know that. And if you're going to seek that, I really believe this is a one-on-one thing. You with God. Your prayer should be silent, focused, trying to make a connection. It's not sitting there acting like God's a cosmic vending machine. Give me this, give me that, give something to someone else. That's not connecting to God. And I also pointed out that the Catholic Church acknowledges this as a form of prayer and behavior that they encourage in some of their priests and their monks. The silent prayer, contemplative prayer. The hermits did this. As many things as I disagree with on the Catholic Church, they have a lot more variety in some respects than the Protestant churches do. How many times have you been to a Protestant church that said, your prayer should simply be silent communing with God? Don't ask for things. Don't confess your sins. Just commune with God. That's pretty radical in the Protestant world. And there may be exceptions, of course. There's hundreds of Protestant denominations, but the Catholic Church, as I mentioned in another sermon, actually tells their priests in training that this is how they should be praying. So don't let which is ironic because the Catholic Church tells you plenty of things you're supposed to believe, but at least in this respect, I agree with them. So I think it's important to read what other people have written, but acknowledge it's just a human, even if it's the Bible writer, the Quran writer, whatever scripture writer, author there may be, it's still just a person trying to tell you about something. And odds are almost certainly they're relaying what someone told them. This is humans sharing information with humans, and somehow it becomes true on a topic that's beyond our comprehension. So I enjoy reading these things and looking at people's journeys. So I enjoy going to the Sunday school class I go to, even though I disagree with many conclusions there. I still find it fascinating. The debate about the Old Testament today was fascinating to watch people blowing it off as irrelevant and still claiming the Bible to be important, at least the New Testament part. Interesting conclusions. So, as I reiterated earlier, you don't have to believe anything I'm saying right now. You can disagree completely. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not trying to convert you. I'm sharing what works for me. That was my first point. Freedom of thought, freedom of consciousness, freedom from the pulpit. All these things mean a great deal to me. I found this in Unitarian Universalism, and it allows me to avoid that first error, letting other people tell me the truth. Secondly, after my self-centered embrace of fundamentalism, I find any religion or philosophy that exalts selfish motivation to be completely unappealing to me, repulsive, in fact. Things like the prosperity gospel, where God wants you to be rich, or The Secret, where the power of positive thinking can, again, give you anything you want. These strike me as the worst examples of selfish religion. Of course, there are many examples. There's a Buddhist version of this too, that's going pretty strong in the US right now. And there are many others that are far more subtle, but still sort of focus on this, as I found in my life. It was all about my salvation, me avoiding hell and going to heaven. So I find these things that decenter the self are far more important. The UU interdependent web of all existence, or the Zen concept of no self, of everything being one. These are far more appealing, more rewarding, more meaningful to me than any religion that sets me apart from others and gives me rewards. So that was my second point. The final thing is that the only religion or philosophy worth examining for me is one that faces death honestly. Our lives are short in the cosmic scale of things, and we must live comfortably with the knowledge, not frightened by, but comfortable with the knowledge that one day we will end. And we cannot allow fear of death to allow charlatans to pretend they know what comes after death and trying to subvert us, take advantage of our fear, to incorporate a belief system that, again, is based on hope rather than actual experience. And with all due respect to anyone who claims to have contact with those who are dead, I have yet to see anything convincing in that regard. And I think what comes after we die is a mystery. And we have to live with that. We have to embrace that. We have to be good with that. And I haven't actually shared this with you yet, but I found out a month ago I have cancer. I have prostate cancer. I don't know how long that will be a problem. It's a sort of cancer that you can live with for many, many years, and it doesn't really grow, or it could explode, pretty quickly, and then you have to get surgery and radiation and all that fun stuff. So I've had to live this the last month, dealing with these fears. Of course, you never want to look a doctor in the eye and have them say, you have cancer. My doctor said, hey, if you have to have cancer, this is the best one to have. So take some comfort from that, I suppose. Every 4 months, I'll get a test of some sort now. And, it makes you appreciate each day. But the thing is, I'm really not too afraid to die. I don't want to have to leave Jancy behind and have her have to deal with things. I've always told her I want to outlive her because it's going to be harder for her if I die first. And so hopefully that'll come to pass. Like I say, right now the cancer's, whatever you want to call it, low grade, low threat, constant observation at this point. But I'm not afraid to, know that I might be dead in 5-10 years. Who knows? My father got cancer at 80 and I beat him by 20 years. So he's a slowpoke. But one day we are going to die, and what comes afterwards, contrary to the claims of so many, is a mystery. And we have to be honest about that with each other. And when a religion says, oh no, we'll tell you exactly what happens, I have zero interest, zero, because there's no honesty there. So my beliefs are driven by three things: freedom to seek meaning in my own way, free from institutional constraints and pressures. 2, a new understanding of what it is to be me and how to better think of this thing called Doug, emphasizing the unity of all there is rather than a self separate from everything else. And finally, honesty about the things we don't know, whether it be knowledge of God, or whether there is a God, or what comes after we die, or any of these, eternal mysteries that humans wrestle with, we have to accept them as mysteries. We have to embrace the uncertainty. And this in turn hopefully leads to an acceptance of our brief time on this earth and a thankfulness for that time, and appreciation and enjoyment of that time, instead of those who want to take away the enjoyment and the appreciation and make this life seem like nothing more than a testing ground for something that comes later. And you shouldn't really be having that much fun right now. That comes afterwards. How tragic. So those are my motivational factors. Yours will probably be different. I did not share mine because you should agree with them. Let me emphasize that one more time. But to rather show you how the evolution occurred in my life. I also encourage you to take some time to think about why you believe what you believe. Are you open to the possibility of other things changing your beliefs? Do you actually seek out other perspectives? I think that's important. And even if you think you already know and have it all figured out, going through the process might give you some additional insights. And of course, this sermon leads wonderfully to a second-hour discussion because people can share the things that drive their beliefs. So thanks for having me. It was a grueling ordeal to get to my desk and speak to you, and we'll chat more about it in the discussion hour. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. So now we will go to our closing, and it will be our out of the hymnal 414. As we leave
this friendly place, love give light to every face. May the kindness which we learn light our hearts till we return. All right, we'll now take a break. It is 11:45 on my clock. So let's come back take a 10-minute break and come back at 10.